Hi, everybody. We're live because Dorothy has a clock in her room.
Good morning. Hello, everybody, or afternoon, whenever you're seeing this. Hi, everybody.
Yes. I don't think it's morning left for any. Well, yeah, I guess.
No, it's not. If you're watching it live, it's afternoon wherever you are,
Yeah,
because
you're
it'll
up. You've
be.
been up for
It's not. It's 11 a.m. in California,
California. Hmm.
and it's 11, 10, 9. I think it's 8 a.m. in Hawaii,
Yeah. Well,
something like that.
my parents lived in Hawaii, and it was always, can we call them yet?
Yeah, yeah. Awesome. I hope everybody's doing good today. How's everybody
Yes.
doing? You can let us know in the chat. I got my phone in front of me here, so I'll be
Hmm.
looking down at that once in a while to see what we can do.
Well,
But
it's good to see you after the new year and after the, and what is it? It's the new moon is a week from yesterday.
yeah, yeah. The new moon was on December 30th,
Hmm.
and that was a really lovely new moon. And while it's come and gone, I still want people who watch this to pay attention to that because I love working with a bunch of different. If you follow my own channel,
Hmm.
you'll see it.
And I
If you're in
have it
my
in the
if
chat.
you're in my Patreon, I talk about the lunar gestation cycle. But the that's another whole story about how to use the moon. But the new moon that we had on December 30th
Hmm.
is halfway between eclipses. We always have that.
Yeah.
We'll have a new moon eclipse. 3 months later, we'll have a new moon that's in a similar number, but it's at a 90-degree angle to the prior eclipse
Hmm.
and 90 degrees. So 3 months before the next eclipse, new moon
Right.
solar eclipse, which will be on March 29th. So I want you to pay attention to look at what you may have initiated or started or just what does that look like for you? Get away from, I know everything about yesterday. I get it. Stay away from that, but look at your own life because we still have to do what we can here, right? I don't talk a lot about the politics, but I'm heavy into it, but I just don't talk about it too publicly, but I get where y'all coming from. And I get stressed out about this stuff too, right, Nancy Jane?
Yeah.
And it's like what we can do is just what we can do in our local environment as well as what you can do to keep yourself feeling
Hmm.
comfortable, safe, secure, etc. Not that I want to give you a lecture about that, but that's what we do. And when you look at that new moon in Capricorn on December 30th, related to the next new moon that we'll have on March will be in Aries, and the one before that was Libra. So we just have all of these opportunities to initiate something
Hmm.
fresh, something new, something that feels solid and grounded. And that was
Hmm.
that new moon on December 30th. And we feel it for a long time. It's not just a couple of days.
Hmm.
I mean, that's the moment of the apex of it, but we get a chance to, what are those resolutions? What are good forward steps you can take?
Hmm.
Just this morning, um, a friend is learning to be a marketer. She already has a PhD in marketing for universities, but this time she's wanting to start her own business. So now she's doing marketing for people like myself, and
Oh.
she needs a few people for practice, and
Hmm.
we just happened to do it this morning, and it's just like so perfect because of some Capricorn energy that's relating to some stuff in my chart.
Hmm.
And this new moon that we had on December 30th, it was all about, what are those logical and practical forward steps we can take, even when we're feeling a bit stressed about things. Yeah. So that's the way we want to start the year, even though there's a lot. Oh, there's so much going on and all over the place, isn't there?
Hmm.
Yeah. So that's where I wanted to start today.
It's
So
amazing you said December 30th because I worked the first sort of cold call um, psychic readings. They hired me to do a New Year's party from 6 to 9 on
mhm.
the 30th, which just means I didn't have to be out driving around at weird times
Yep.
on that dangerous night.
Yeah.
And um, and it's interesting because I met two people there that market in cyberspace that were interested in working with me. They just said, I'd love to talk to you, and lots of new ideas and kind
Mhm.
of it was. And one person out of all the people I read that night, because I was there for 3 hours, had ever been read before. All of them were newbies. And
What?
yeah, and one guy, I laid out his cards, and his center card, this guy was a construction person. He builds things.
Mm-hmm.
And it was at a country club, so he doesn't build cheap things.
Right.
And I looked at his cards and I said, well, you're a bit psychic yourself. You use your intuition a lot in your business. And he kind of chortled about it, but
Mm-hmm.
he's kind of run his business by flying by the seat of his pants. Well, all his cards showed that part of him is going to burst out and become even more prevalent, and it's
Nice.
pushing on him right now. So I kind of, as gently as you can, when a guy's like 6'6", I'm all of 5'4", guys, is at your table. And I was telling him, and he goes, well, yeah, I'm good with my head, blah. But at the end of the evening, he came up to me and he said, oh, I don't think I'm woo-woo like you. I don't think I'm one of those people. And I said, what about the guy that talks to you from the back of your truck? And he looked at me and said, the what? I said, the man's voice who talks to you and says, that was a good idea. What about him? He goes, how do you know about that? And so I introduced him to his guide.
Oh, how wonderful. I
Yeah.
like that.
So it's
Nice.
and I tell you what, this is a bunch of people that I used to work lots of psychic fairs, and I very rarely saw what I saw that night. All kinds of people coming to understand there's greater energies around all of us, and that there's
Nice.
a lot of different ways to tap into it. So
Yeah. Yeah. And that is, and just to add to that, we have these things in the sky called the lunar nodes, right? And on January 11th, it depends on which system you use. January 11th, or I believe the other date is like January 20th. Let me grab it. Somewhere around January 22nd. I can't remember exactly the date. But those lunar nodes shift into two new signs. So important. And I'm going to tell you what they're about, because they leave Aries, Libra. They're almost always retrograde, and they go back into the Pisces, Virgo, where they're going to remain in that Pisces, Virgo until the latter part of 2026. They spend just over 19 months in one zodiac sign.
Yeah.
And that's where that's the zodiac signs will have eclipses in years where it shifts. Then it's too different.
That's where the nodes come from. It has to do with how the planets are lined up.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I have it written on here. So the nodes, yeah, for people, they're not the celestial bodies. They're basically the calculation that is between the sun's ecliptic and the orbit of the moon, and where they crisscross. That is the position of those lunar nodes. It happens with every one of the planets, but most people just pay attention to the nodes of the moon. So they do change every 19 years. And so with
19 months.
Every 19, it takes 19 years to go all the way around. Okay. It does take approximately 19 months for them to go sign to sign, two different, because they're always completely opposite each other, just like a pencil, whatever. Pisces is here, straight across the chart is Virgo.
One goes one way and the other goes
they have to, they are connected. It's just because it's a mathematical measurement. They're connected by 180 degrees. And so it's called, some people know it as the dragon's head and the dragon's tail. And the dragon's head is Pisces. The north node will be Pisces. And some of the things that we're working on, focusing on with that north node in Pisces, is where all of us collectively should be moving closer and closer to understanding spirituality, listening to spirit, allowing those things to guide us. Like you were telling that man, we don't have to all walk around totally woo-woo. I don't think that's great, because at that point, who doesn't understand what spiritual bypassing is? I see that happen too much, where it's like everything is about, well, if you just want it to happen, the universe will immediately, everything will come to you if it's meant. It's like, but you need to take action steps, physically take action steps into what's next. That's the Virgo energy. That's the opposite of the North Node as we shift into it just really soon. And it gives us that opportunity to try and find that harmony between being a physical body, a soul in a physical body. It's just that connection
Mhm.
and how it can be more in alignment with spirituality and allowing a better flow in my life. And that Virgo can be that, well, I still need a fair amount of Virgo is earthy. So groundedness, I need a fair amount of, like, make sure you focus on the details, right? But
Mhm.
get too caught into the details, then we just can get like lost and just you can't accomplish much because you've got too heavy into the weeds, if you will, too heavy into the details.
Mhm.
And that North Node in Pisces is asking us to trust that, but now let it go and flow.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Feel
Yeah.
it, not just
The steps, take the action steps, do the actual things you need to do, and then allow it to flow. Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I know, because there's so many beautiful, wonderful ideas out there. So many dreamers, right? So many people that just have all these fabulous things on what they want to do. But until you have like a physical action step,
Mhm.
it's hard. And so that's what that new moon in Capricorn was on December 30th. But that's also what we'll be working with for approximately 19 months once those nodes shift into the Pisces and Virgo axis. It's nice. Yeah.
I don't know why I'm happier with them there, but I am.
Because Libra and Aries, if we look at it as a collective, it can be selfish.
Mhm.
It can create it can create wars. We'll just be clear about that because it's
Mhm.
just like, no, this is mine. No, that's mine. No, this is mine. And then just that back and
Yeah,
forth.
whenever anything's locked into Aries, there's a lot of ego and centeredness there.
And that's going to happen. That's going to happen soon because
You know, we
we
got
also we also have Neptune and Saturn entering Aries in 2025. They'll both retrograde and pop back out, and then they'll go back in 2026. So there's a back and forth. If anybody wants the full year forecast, that's on my website. It's for sale. I'm going to make a little plug for myself right now. The whole forecast is about 2 hours long for 2025. But when those two guys go back and forth, it's going to stir up a lot of clarity, if you will. A lot of I feel the fog gets cleared. We get to
Mhm.
see. We get to see, the FAFO thing that's going around right now. I can't say it on this channel. F
Mhm.
around and find out. And that's just a big thing on TikTok right now. I
Mhm.
love watching TikTok. It's quite entertaining. It really is. It's so much fun. I could spend hours on that instead of watching TV, which I don't watch TV. But it's yeah. And that's as soon as Neptune enters that sign of Aries. I can't remember when it happens. I don't have it written down, but when it does enter Aries, I'll have it in my ephemeris while I talk. It enters Aries in sometime in 2025. I don't have it written down. Apologize. Somebody will find it for me. It just gives us that clarity that we're looking for.
Mhm.
The fog will lift. We'll have that clarity, and we're going to definitely feel those action steps. So while the nodes, it's good that the nodes are out of Aries, well, soon.
Yeah.
But Neptune and then Saturn will enter those. So yeah, that's what it looks like for that. What do you want to add there?
Well, I used to watch the big outer planets when they moved around because they move so slowly. There's not a lot of dates to remember.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
remember this was a period of my life when I was just out living my life and doing my readings and doing my stuff before COVID.
Yeah.
And one day I just took it into my head to get my hair dyed purple. So I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Neptune into Aries on March 25th. I knew Oil Painter would come in with that because she's got all that
Yeah.
stuff. And so
Yes.
I made the decision to dye my hair purple. And I did it on the day that Uranus moved into my natal sign.
Oh, so Taurus. So that was
Yeah.
in 2018.
Hmm.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that day.
And I was talking to a different astrologer, and he was asking me about dyeing my hair purple, and I told him, and he goes, "Well, that's one of the more Uranian things you could do."
Yeah, that is. It's like that's just a crazy change. not crazy, but if
But
you,
I didn't sit there with a chart and figure it out. I just did what
yeah.
I felt like I should do inside.
Yeah, yeah, I get it. I know that, and that is really nice. Okay, so here are the dates. I found them while you were talking. Neptune enters the sign of Aries on March 30th, and Saturn enters the sign of Aries on May 24th. Now they will retrograde and move back out in just their regular cycles, and we don't have to cover that today. But yeah, they'll both go back into Pisces like September, October. But so yeah, both of them together in Aries, it's just going to be very how do we feel with that Aries? Some of us could feel like we have the courage to make steps that we want, right? Especially with Saturn in Aries, that's in May 24 through a date not in September. So we might feel very courageous because when anything gets to a cardinal point means 0 Aries. It's like the degrees of 0 for the cardinal zodiac signs. So whenever anything gets to that 0 number in Aries, especially,
it's like kicking in the door. It's like you're
yeah. Ta-da! Here we are. Yeah, it's like just busting down a door and just here I am. Yeah, and so Saturn in Aries will feel like we can grow our businesses, or we can accomplish a lot of things if that's what we want to do. And slowly, again, as Neptune starts to move into there, we'll have an opportunity to really feel motivated and that we have a clearer path. And then while we simultaneously have that North Node now transiting through Pisces, we'll be able to have this opportunity to, tap into our own spiritual process and allow that flow. So those of us, especially the people that watch your show, I'm going to look at what people have been saying soon. But once we tap into that, that what our action plan wants to, what we need to be, depending on what's going on in our lives, then, take those steps, but also allow that flow. And I feel a lot of people have a lot more courage. We're going to have to be incredibly authentic with this too. Anybody who's been a fake or a farce or just pulling the wool over people's eyes for a long time,
be uncovered.
It's going to be uncovered. And so, be authentic yourself. I'm not saying you aren't or whoever isn't, but people tell me that too. And it's like, yeah, you guys, what you see is what you get. The only thing you don't see here is I swear more than in person than I do on. I like that.
She's a true Yankee. We did have one question posted to YouTube, so I'm going to be honest with it. This was a long question.
Yeah.
And I sent Dorothy the particulars of birth dates and things. We don't want you to put birth dates and all that stuff in our chat because you're giving someone a lot of power.
It's sensitive material. It's sensitive information. And anybody can just backtrack who you are and find that birth date and never use your birth date for any pins ever. Just give you a little internet security. But yeah, don't do that. You can do it.
So anyway, this question, I could just tell you what my first kick in the gut was. It was about, she gave birth dates and times. I don't think it's going to make a difference. When a woman puts that her marriage has no communications and lots of passive aggression, should I get out? My gut says if you're asking that question, you need to figure out the best way for you to get out with the most you can get. But Dorothy has all the birth dates and everything. Is there anything she sent us in her birth date that would indicate it shouldn't be that?
I need to exit full screen and I need to. That didn't change anything on your end, right?
No.
I have to go get my chart. You can still see me? I'm just doing my astrology chart. Good. Okay. I'm not used to StreamYard. Yes, I see that. I see that over a fair amount of time. We have here's the astrology words. Transit Pluto is conjunct Venus in natal Venus in this person's chart over the next year. It's within a couple of degrees right now. So this really is a big time between now and I'm moving forward and back. It's a couple of years. That means the relationship is transitioning and the relationship is evolving to a point where, it's just evolving beyond where it is now. And if it's already in a difficult place, then, and if there is no communication, then that ultimately that just means it's dissolving. It's dissolving. Okay. And it will do that process for another couple of years, because Pluto has not been at 4 degrees of Aquarius, and it hasn't been there yet. And it will be there. It'll be really close in the middle part of 2025. And it'll be exact when we get into 2026, because Pluto moves so slowly. And so that means there is, for this person, this lady, yes. Yeah. And if you and your spouse were just like, we love each other, but we just can't stand each other. This is how real astrology works. Do you want to work on it and do all of the things you need to do to evolve and grow in your relationship? I would say change, but that's just a word that people would use. But both of you, to grow, to evolve, and to change. Are you willing to do that? And if you're willing to do that, this transit would help you do that.
It's a transit of change. And that means she's already kind of, from what she described, in a pretty miserable, from her perspective, situation. And, do you want to change to a better situation? What's going to make that happen?
Yeah. And it will take some time. If you've been married a long time, it takes time to separate. Just because you pack your bags and you leave, there is a lifetime of things to unwind.
Right.
And that's also Pluto to the Venus. But you have to decide. And so again, that's just a really good example of, pop astrology is fun. There's some truth here and there, but when it really comes to these really deep, emotional, psychological, important life changes, you can see that depending on the individuals involved, you get to decide how you want to use this transit. Is it over, or are you going to evolve and change and transform this relationship into something it's never been before and stay together for the rest of your lives till death do you one of you apart? And that is what you would look at. So you get to choose. Yeah.
Yeah. The hardest part of dealing with two people in two charts is you're dealing with two people and two charts.
There's just a lot to it.
And there's a lot, if you're standing on the outside. My second marriage, people were like, you're a psychic reader. I also had a degree in accounting and stuff and was working professionally when I met him. But my husband was a very well-known physicist and had pioneered patents in the nanophysics and all the stuff that I don't even know what it was that he did. He could understand I added things up and paid taxes, but he didn't. And so people were always like, how do you two get along? Well, he had an incredibly wide-ranging mind inquiring about stuff. It wasn't like he lived in his little physics lab. But it was really, we were already together, married, and had a child of our own in a second marriage that neither of us would have predicted was going to happen. And an astrologer did our charts, and she said, oh God, that's what it is. We have the same degree on our ascendant.
Oh yeah, that works.
And she said that'll knock down a lot of those other things that people have been seeing.
It does, because that means while you have all the planets in different places, because you're not twins, if you have the same setup, that wheel, if everybody imagines that astrology wheel, that means where the planets in the sky are in the same house. So the same area of understanding. It means like you're both in the living room at the same time. You're both in the kitchen at the same time. You're both in the bedroom and whatever. It just means that when the planets move through a house, which is a area of life, the same area of life is being activated by the same planet. Of course, you two will still, filter it through your own system. But it's I find that as the best, personally, in the years I've been doing this. To me, that is the best type of chart to have with somebody. And doesn't mean you stay together forever. Not always.
Oh, trust me, there were times I had a big, sharp utility knife when we ran a construction company together. And I kept looking at him like, yeah, and he was 20 years my senior. He was a child of war. The worst for him was he was a child of war, and he suffered all the scars of having he lived in London while it was being bombed.
Oh, that's so stressful.
So,
oh my God.
Okay. We have one more question that we got.
Okay.
And this one is a birth date. And there's no way you can find this kid. This is a 4-year-old child that is a child of a friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
Dorothy, what do you see in this kid's chart that would make everyone feel? And Dorothy and I had a private conversation about how people feel about this kid.
Yeah. Has he been this way the whole time? A bit challenging.
Yeah, what happened to him? His mother died when he was 3 months old of an undiagnosed heart condition. So Dad was left with 2 teenage kids, his sister who's 4 years older than he was, and him, and he was 3 months, and that would be overwhelming. I mean, I can't imagine. I ended up raising kids on my own, but they were grown and could walk and talk and change themselves and all that stuff. So, yeah. And he had no kind of helpmate. So this my feeling is the poor kid's been trying to be a grown-up and he can't figure out how. That's what I see when I'm around him. And the adults around him, for the most part, are so burnt out on this kid. And I'm not kidding. I mean, I'll tell you. First
off, he's a Taurus. Sun and Mercury. He's a Taurus. So that just means he's, he needs a routine. Virgo rising. He needs a routine in his life. As absolutely imperative. But when they're young, we really look at the moon sign because that is absolutely imperative as well. And his moon is Sagittarius, and that means he's not traditional. It's in his 3rd house. He's not a traditional learner. Mm-hmm. He is going to learn by experiencing life. Now that doesn't explain his anger because he's angry. I mean, pissed off at things, but it tells me that right off the bat, that's the first thing I would look at this child and just say, he's very active. He's, and you have to, of course, equal the age. He needs in some form of sports and activities, just because it's quiet time at the daycare. No, he's going to be causing trouble because he's got a Sagittarius moon. And that should not be a problem. He is a 4-year-old. Unfortunately, when children like this, we don't fit into regular schooling or regular systems, and it sucks. It sucks. So he's being overmanaged and over-controlled. I know we have to keep our kids, in somewhat, but I love the whole. I've been watching this one woman. It's an unschooling, and it's just letting the kids. It's like a Montessori type. Self-teaching, parents teach the kids. It's absolutely fantastic. The kids seem a little feral at first, but this child would do well to be allowed to be a little more feral than try to fit into the adults' boxes, because he's feeling the push. He's feeling the power. He's feeling that overwhelming push because Pluto, when he was born, his Pluto was right next to Jupiter and then Saturn. So his whole life, this progressed Pluto and transit Pluto, has been just really pushing this kid hard. Everybody born in May 2020. Our children are feeling the stress of this. Pluto is right where Saturn was. It's tough. It's just plain and simple. This is a tough chart. This is tough to be a 4-year-old. And the best way that this child could be just more himself. He just needs to express himself more, and the adults around him need to figure this out because he's going to feel too managed and too controlled. And when he's an adult, he's going to well, what are my childhood issues? Childhood issues is you were too, people just had way too much power over you. And I know he's 4, but this is way too much. Way too much power.
He doesn't have 2 adult authorities to go back and forth to because he's only got, and Dad works, and I'll tell you what this. I'm going to take his birth date off, but what he did, his New Year's gift to everybody, was he woke up early on New Year's Day, and everyone else they'd had a big party, and they'd been playing with the karaoke machine, and he saw the karaoke machine, so he got up at 7 a.m, turned the karaoke machine on, and began screaming in it. I mean, and I said, good for him. He could turn it on. He'd probably do better than I.
So Sagittarius. Well, he's under, and so he's under this transit of Pluto in the sky has only moved 6 degrees since he was born, and it's gone forward and back. But totality right now has only been like 6 degrees, and I mean it's just impacting the poor thing. I mean, I really feel hard. Really feel bad for him. And I mean, and nobody likes a kid that's constantly feels like they're a 2-year-old and pitching a fit. But he he needs more. He needs a longer leash if you're going to try and leash him. And he will have to work on this when he gets older. He will have to come back and say, all right, what am I, because he might be overpowering himself at some point in time, a little overbearing, too much. I'm missing the one word I'm thinking of it, but it's Pluto. So it's just about this power and control. Who's got it? Who doesn't? When you're 4-year-old, you don't have it. I mean, the adults around you are the ones that are in control of you, but he's going to have to work on this. And he's a product of his environment as well as his chart. Uranus is on his Mercury right now too. So his little brain is going way too fast to sit still. And so he has an attention span of a 4-year-old. And it's important that he just has as much leeway as he can within boundaries. Because
I mean, quite honestly, they're worried he's going to run around and hurt himself. But I'm like, I don't see that in it.
No, he's not going to hurt himself.
I mean,
nothing outside of what 4-year-olds do.
I know.
He needs to do that. He needs extra attention.
Okay.
Yeah.
We've got another person, Tammy. I highlighted her comment. I'm in the Red Deer Regional Hospital. I'm waiting for my stepfather to come out of surgery. I need this distraction. Thank you. Well, we're glad we can help you, and we'll send you our good thoughts, Tammy, because it's so much harder when you're out in the other room and you're not knocked out with the anesthesia,
Yeah.
Sit there and wait for what's happening.
I know. And Mars is in Cancer right now. So that's a whole different story too. We can't really evaluate somebody's surgery chart right now, but because there's all kinds of details we'd want to know.
Well, this is the time the universe put him in that room, and we hope it all works out.
Exactly. And actually, I wanted to say that when we were talking about this young boy, while he's under a lot of pressure and he's under stress, even though his ego is only 4 years old, right? The personality, the ego, the soul is much older, and the soul inside, needs to learn. It's just so hard to handle. Sometimes people have a hard time hearing this, but the soul is here to learn certain things, and the father and all the other people around him, since they're the older persons right now, they're here to help the soul learn what it wants to learn. Everybody.
Well, not to make quick snap judgments on your friends, but I think the kid's a lot smarter than the parent. That is not,
Yeah. Well, because they're closer to source than we are.
That's true. He's still wending his way into his incomplete chart.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because we really don't engage a lot of the outer planet. A lot of planets really aren't engaged for a while until we start maturing into certain things. But he's exactly who he's supposed to be, and it just sounds like he needs a little more freedom, and he needs to stop being so controlled by so many people. But I understand if you're living with a child that's 4 and they're just mental all over the place, they're just being them, but it's just like, whoo.
And there comes a time, every parent has a breaking point. I had it, with mine, and there just comes a time. I don't blame the father who says, you're going in your room till you can do this. And that, and doing, every time he does that to the kid, it's like the balloon gets pumped bigger and bigger and bigger for the explosion. Yeah.
Well, he could also just find a way that, that he could disperse the energy by doing something. Sagittarius just is a fire, the moon and fire sign, wants to be active. Give him a physical project based off of his age, he needs to be doing these things. And again, with Uranus conjunct Mercury, his little brain's all over the place. I don't know how long that's going to last. His Mercury's at 23. Let's take a look, because that just can be I get where he's coming from. I get where Dad's coming from. So that's going to be connecting.
Well, it's difficult if you're a parent with a house with other kids and you've got a kid that really requires lots and lots of tending. And it's a problem. And it's not I did not have that particular set of problems with my kids. Although I have 2 hyperactive kids. But
I have one of my children. I only if they see this, I'm sorry. One of my children, so I won't say gender, when they would get upset to the point where it's like, nah, I don't want to deal with you. I would send them to their room, and it's like, you can go in there and you can do whatever you want. You can't break stuff and you can't hurt yourself. But you can go in there and pitch your fit. I'm from New England, but I had a few years in the Southwest, so I always say that. So you can go in there, you can pitch your fit, do what you want, and then when you're done, you can come back out and we're going to talk about it. This was back in the 80s, okay? So that's what I did, because I knew I had barely started studying astrology, so I didn't know anything about that. But that was just my way of handling, a person that needed to express themselves. You can't tell a person that they're not upset about something.
No.
Especially when they don't know how to express it. And all they're doing is they have to physically get it out. So this young person you're talking about definitely needs a way to express that. So if there's any way that there's however you know them, you can brainstorm about, instead of that child just going into the room and only behaving. They don't want to behave. They think they're
first of all, if they're locked up in a room by themselves and their mind's already running that way, the way they think is behaving is nothing you want to deal with.
Right.
You have to mimic the behavior. I'm not going to get into it because it's a friend.
Yeah.
Okay, I got a question.
Okay.
It's an astrology question without dates.
I have an app.
I'm a beginning astrology student. Yay.
Congratulations.
And she's worrying about the Pluto Jupiter conjunction on the 10th.
First off, I'm gonna tell every beginner astrologer, don't look at any aspect as good or bad. Just completely take that out of your vocabulary. Completely. Nothing is ever good or bad. I'm not that liberal where I'm going to say everything is just okay, but every aspect, every transit to our natal chart is something that we're here to use or to learn from. And once we learn from it, then we can use that lesson. Okay. So I wouldn't say, so try and move that out of your dialect, out of your vocabulary. You just don't want to use that anymore. But that transit, that's you're of a certain age where everybody in your age group is going to have Pluto trine Pluto. That's just a period of evolving and evolution in your life. And Pluto conjunct Jupiter in the 10th house, big opportunities for your career to go through some evolution as well, and some change. Terrific. I love both of those. That's a really great opportunity for you to take your time and really change and evolve. It's not about something happening quick. It's about something going nice and slow.
Yeah, Sid Keeps, I don't know how old you are, but I look back at days when I thought, oh my God, why did that happen to me? That was like, when I was in that day, it was like the worst day of my life. And I looked back 2 years later and went, oh, thank God that happened, because it pulled me away from something I shouldn't have been in the first place.
I am on board with that. That's why I can say it, because my own life experience has shown me that there isn't one thing that, when I was devastated about something, that in time it turned out to be, well, all right, okay. You learn the lesson from it. And some things sting and they never go away, but you can learn from it. So that's how I would answer that question. So I think that is pretty nice. And so if ever you have Pluto making its conjunction to your Jupiter, it's going to help that Jupiter in your natal chart to evolve in a whole new way.
Yeah. And this is true. People say the screwiest things about Pluto.
Mhm.
The only thing I can tell you that I learned about Pluto when I was in astrology, otherwise, all these things need to be put against your chart or another person's chart and follow and see how they move. But Pluto, if you've not seen the astrologic symbol, it's like a P within a little prong on the bottom of the P.
Mhm.
And one of the first people who taught me astrology said it's like a plow, and in each sign it's in, it's going through what's beneath the surface of that sign.
It's a great analogy. I love that.
And it's a way that it's unearthing. It's unearthing stuff. And there's another reader I really like, Kim from Intuitive View. She was talking about she had a dream where she was with her guides and they were digging through the soil and they were pulling stuff up. And this was a couple years ago. And she said, it's a time when we're unearthing. That's what they kept telling me. We're unearthing. Unearthing can be great. You can find, if you work with crystals like I do, you unearth crystals and you find real pretty things.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Yes.
You find pretty things like this beautiful smoky quartz.
Smoky quartz, yeah.
You can also be digging through the dirt and find where some cat beat you to it. So,
well, that's Pluto too. Yeah, Pluto.
Pluto covers the spectrum.
It covers all the end process, right? So it's gonna rule that all of those end processes and any of those ending processes, whether it's our food finishing its digestion, and or the end of our life, the death process, that is that too. But also, just the death of a belief, the death of a way of living, the death of, the transformation here in the Northern Hemisphere. That's like November into, it's Scorpio time of year, that October, November, where everything is dying and it's decaying, and to make fresh and new for the spring. So Pluto doesn't have to be, it's not just death, sex, and taxes. It's how you and I evolve. And we want that. It makes a change, but we want those changes to come through nice and slow. So if you do have that, it's well, we all have it somewhere, but it makes changes, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It does make changes, and it helps us to evolve and transform. And sometimes that comes at a cost, my first major Pluto transit in my life that really impacted me, just because of where things are in my chart, was when my grandmother passed away in 2008. And I've never had that. I never lost a family member. It just hit me like you wouldn't, just amazed. It's just, I was just astounded at
Pluto transit. Is that the Pluto transiting your sun, or is it what it's
my moon? It transited my moon, and I have a moon in the house number 8, which is also the natural home of Pluto. So that just means it's the natural place of evolution and death. And I have a lot of connections with many people who passed away. I could be a medium, but I choose not to. So the other side of it.
I've had that conversation like 6 times in the last 2 days with different leaders.
Have you?
Yeah. One who says, I'm fine. I'll channel aliens, but they have to sit on my lap and whisper in my ear, and then I say it,
That's good. That's good.
They're not coming through me, and she's not going to do star speak and stuff. And there's nothing against people who do that. It's just we all do things differently. And
all right, what else in here is
okay?
Somebody swears a lot. Jenna. Yeah, I swear a lot too. Yeah, and our mindset is
a person who maybe needs to look at procrastination in their chart. They're just finishing their Christmas cookies.
Definitely a fixed sign. So it's a fixed
Yep,
sign there.
I'm going to make those Christmas cookies, even if it's Easter.
Yeah. Why not? I love Christmas cookies with frosting, like real homemade stuff, not the jar stuff. That stuff's nasty. Somebody else asked something. I don't know, but what else could we?
Wanted to know about her
Okay.
book, but we
How will
didn't.
my book be received when I push it out in 2025? What do people think and feel? I don't know what people think and feel, but it depends on when you push it out.
Mhm.
And it depends. You know what? One of the bigger questions is, this is how I would look at this. If you
Mhm.
were actually having a private session with me, Ness, that question I would have to look at publications.
Mhm.
That's Jupiter. So is your Jupiter in your natal chart having a transit to it? We will
Mhm.
look at that. Or is Jupiter in the sky connecting to it? I would look at that too, because that's big publishing. And then I would also look at, I would avoid the retrogrades of Mercury because that slows things down. There's not, we don't get on Mercury retrograde, but it just slows things down. So pay attention to that. What is the purpose of the book? Is it because I just want to be published? Or I really feel like this, I can make like workshops from this and create a business and earn money. Or I
Mhm.
just want to sell a lot of copies so I can earn money. All of those things are factors of what I would want to look at if I was answering this question in a private session. Okay. But overall, if I look at this, I would pay attention to when I'm publishing it, because Jupiter is retrograde until, and he is the Lord of big publications. He's retrograde to mid-March. And then here it is. I have it written down. Yes. Venus, she's about money and financing. She's in what we love and value. She's retrograde March 1st to April 12th. So I would, in essence, do what I can to avoid that if that's when you're starting something. There's a lot of other things about that. I am going to do a separate video for my YouTube, for my Patreon first, and then to YouTube about Venus retrograde. But so it's not like pulling a card. I know pulling cards can be really, really helpful. So Nancy Jean could do that if you felt like it. But the astrology, we really want to look at that. And that's why I love working with people, business timing, etc., things like that, business
Mhm.
timing, or why am I feeling this way? How long will this last? Things like that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm
So,
going to pull a card from a new deck.
okay.
Since
Okay.
Dorothy's pulling my leg here, I got this. This is a new deck I have, and it's shamanic crystals, and I'm learning it, girl. So Ness, you know, but so far when I've worked with it, it's been very positive.
All right, Nest, Jupiter is in Gemini in your ninth house. Yeah, wait until it's done its retrograde. Wait until it's
Mhm.
done its retrograde and give it a week. Okay. Since it's already in the house, its natural house is the ninth house. So it's here, we'll give you some really technical words. It's accidentally dignified transiting through your ninth house. So yes, but wait until it goes direct and give it some wiggle room. And just generally speaking, okay, is this is real general, but it's still pretty nice. And let's see what else is going on around the 10th. Oh, yeah. And then we have a lunar eclipse on the 15th of March, 14th or 15th, depends on your time zone. So, yeah, that's once Jupiter gets moving forward. What date is that? March 10th, something like that. I don't have it in here. Close enough. But yeah, what do you get, Nancy
The
Jean?
crystal I pulled for you is watermelon tourmaline, and if you've never seen it, it's a beautiful pink stone. I have it in a necklace and I have it in a ring, and whenever I read, I wear the necklace and the ring because it's a protection stone. Honor your empathy and let love flow without attachment. Dear special soul, welcome to the secret of the watermelon tourmaline and the various layers and shades of color that are within me. I provide protection, support, and deep listening. I know that love is made from empathy and truth, called friendship, are truly very special. So that to me would tell me that you need to be really attached to the people you're working on the publishing with.
Mhm.
Today, dear, I come to caress your heart and to point how many different aspects of love there are. There's sincere love that comes from the ability to release ourselves from all forms of possessions and attachments and jealousies towards someone else. Understand that this is your inner mind and emotional layers coming together. Um, you must know also there's a higher level of love is eternal. It's in earthly life made up of thousands of situations, multiple choices, and paths that you may be part of, but certainly you should never stop loving your life no matter where that leads. If you can approach with a much higher level of love, you will make yourselves and those around you free. So I think it's telling me, um, it says,
Yeah.
I can stay with you as long as you wish to help you sustain the layers and to savor them. You can wash me with water and expose me to sunlight, moonlight. It doesn't fade. It's one of the colored stones that doesn't fade.
Nice.
And it
I like
says,
tourmaline.
when you sincerely want a life of abundance, you're looking to watermelon tourmaline. It's a
Yeah.
great stone.
And it's a really rare stone too. It's expensive and rare. It's up here in New England. It comes from Maine mostly. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
Ness,
not
I put in
rare.
there.
It's not rare
I,
in California. It comes
no?
from volcanic shafts.
Yeah.
All tourmaline
Oh,
does.
the watermelon tourmaline in Maine is really rare. I read the wrong. I gave Ness the wrong time. Well, all
Okay.
of you, because I was looking at March 10th, 2026. So that's
Uh-oh.
I was on the wrong card. This
Oh,
card is
you're all.
2025, 2026. So it is Jupiter's retrograde till February 4, 2025. Just to let you guys know.
Mm-hmm.
So that week, especially if you have a waxing lunar phase, good timing. And if you felt like, yeah, I would, that's fine, because then Venus retrogrades not too long after that. Honestly, Venus will retrograde a month later. So yeah, you got just a little wiggle room. We have a lot of retrogrades. Well, we always have a lot of retrogrades, but Mars is finishing its retrograde um, in in 2025 in February, and then Venus is retrograde this year, because those two don't retrograde every year, but they are retrograde in the same year. Yeah, so there we are. So we have all the planets retrograde in
Yeah,
2025.
does that make any difference? I mean, because the big planets, I
Always retrograde for 4.5 to 5 months
mean,
every single year,
mhm.
constantly. So that's not uncommon. We have a little empty. We have a little period in. I can't remember exactly what it is. It's in my yearly forecast, but there's a little period that we don't have. Oh yeah, I got it right here. We don't have any retrogrades, but the retro. It just means that it's just like the best example is it's just like the new administration coming in, right?
Mhm.
Where they're going to go in and they're going to stop things that the prior. This happens every time in a minute. We change parties. What one party's done, the other one comes in and says, no, we're getting rid of that. We're going to do our own thing. So it just takes, it's like all of these retrogrades in 2025. It just means that, it's not just 2 steps forward, 1 step back. It's just, we'll take a few forward and a few back and a few forward. It just
Mhm.
means that we're going to be retracing our steps a lot. There's no way around it.
Mhm.
It's not full steam ahead this year. We're going to move a little bit and then we're going to stop, and then we'll move a little bit and then we'll go back. And that's what it looks like. But you and I, we can stay in our own lane and advocate for where we want to advocate, and just be all of those things that we want to be. And again, just look at our own lives and keep our own selves and families, in our own safety nets, whatever that means for you and me, because it's different for
Mhm.
everybody, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, we're getting
Yeah.
ready for snow, and in Dallas, it's like a 3-day headline. Snow. Yeah, it's going to snow Thursday.
It's just in the 20s here it's already been this way for 7 days, and we've got 10 more days, at least as far out as they can predict. It's not going to get above 32. And right now, the wind is howling, and it feels like 10 degrees out there. It is so effing cold.
I know.
I
Well,
see.
we're just sitting here, and you wake up in the morning and you go, "Oh, it must have gotten in the 20s last night because my room's freezing." And
Yeah.
then you go around, you warm everything up. But yes, but it started yesterday. Snow, a big snowflake comes through my news there. I thought,
It's so pretty, though. Yeah.
yeah,
I want it warm.
if you don't have to walk on it.
or driving it or shovel it or clean your
Well,
car
see,
off.
Texas roads were not made to have snow on them. So your car just slides off because the roads are humped to get rid of the water. They're not humped to get rid of the snow.
We do have a little bit of that too here in New England. I'm in New Hampshire, if anybody didn't know, but we have that there too. There, it always drains down just a little bit. There's
Yeah.
always, you can just, I'm very sensitive and I can feel it. I'm like Princess and the Pea, I can
Mhm.
feel if something's not level, and it's just like, there's just, like one of the main highways I drive on, the Spalding Turnpike, it's called, and it's just a little bit tipped. And I always feel like I'm leaning because it just like,
Mhm.
stop doing that. Is my tires low?
Mhm.
It's not
Yeah.
though,
Well,
but looking for
and
that
also
balance.
the national weather report for everyone. I mean, it's cold everywhere.
Sorry.
Cold everywhere,
Yeah,
and
we get distracted.
it just means I don't get out as much and I don't leave much anyway. So I don't know why it's a big deal for me. Except the cattle get to sit in the window and go, "What's that?"
There you go. There you go.
So, is
All
there
right.
anything more important that's coming up? I know all those
There's
big
always,
plants are moving, and everybody's trying to scare the crap out of us. And
yeah, don't go for the fear, guys. Stay away from the fear mongering. It doesn't help. I mean, if it inspires you to do something and be courageous, yay. But if it stirs up more fear in you, you know, just stay away from it. Just stay away from it because we really need to just be our authentic selves, which most of us are, and just take one step at a time. And I mean, I feel until we get the feel of this new administration, and what's really going on. I mean, all you can do is just sit back and wait. I mean, watching a lot of other people have conversations about this, and it's like I have, I can't even pinpoint what I feel about what's going on
Mhm.
right now and how the changes will happen. It's no different than, well, it is a little bit different in my opinion, but just because of the transits we have. But it's like yeah, we're in the midst of a lot of things really changing and evolving. Pluto and Aquarius,
Mhm. Have you looked at
Neptune.
the astrocartography for the U.S.?
Well, that's a moving target.
Mm-hmm.
That's a moving chart, but no, not necessarily. Have you?
I don't do those. You forget. I have enough with the rocks on the ground, but I just really feel like when you hear people throwing, if you don't know what astrophotography is, go look it up on astro.com. It's really interesting. I think it's like where all of astrology should be, much more on the personal level, because that's much more where it can pinpoint where you are.
Right.
And right now, my big plea off my channel is search from your heart, not from your
Yeah.
mind, because our minds have taken us on this merry romp to nowhere.
Hmm.
Um, but you can find a whole lot more in your own heart, and that makes it easier. I mean, people think I'm joking, but I literally, when I'm not working on my stuff and building grids and working with the stones and stuff, and working with the elementals, because the elementals are coming back. And they're
Yeah.
telling you're going to have to rely on Gaia and what the earth gives, and
Hmm.
that nothing, they keep saying, for a person who works with crystals, this is kind of a funny statement, but nothing's written in stone. And
So true.
so we've got a lot of, there's, there's just still something I can feel it's underlying that's shifting around me. And so what I do is I
Hmm.
watch uh, Antiques Road Trip, which is a bunch of antique dealers that go around England, and they have a competition where two of them go and they try to bag the best things. They go to an auction, and then they see who can make the most money. And
Oh, I've seen that. Yeah.
yeah, it's so trivial, but I really enjoy the personalities. I love learning the history because they do a lot of history stuff in it when they do it, and that's what I do. And I haven't watched an MSNBC news show in a month.
I don't watch any of them. I
Yeah.
choose what I want to read.
Hmm.
Even the Associated Press, I use them. Um,
They're
they're
better
most
than the rest. They're more factual.
they're better than the rest. And then, of course, the Midas Touch guys. All of them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, let's see if there's anything else here.
CLS Briscoe, my son who does he's a political consultant. He does a YouTube thing. And he only does it when he said there's really something to talk about. You know, he went dark for a while and people said, we're so distressed from the elections. And he said, no, there's just nothing to talk about because nothing is settled. I mean,
Yeah. I know that's that's what drives me nuts is like it's everything's, breaking news and it's not, I mean, it's fine. Here's new information, but not everything's breaking news. It just it's so hyped. I can't take it. So,
like getting snowflakes on your feed 3 days before the snow shows up. Anyway, Melanie likes heartwarming movies. That's good.
I don't have regular TV, so I don't have any of those. I stream a couple things and that's it. What's this? I'll stop giving energy to what we don't want to happen and give energy to what we want. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, and the second you start tying into that and watching that fear and going, oh my God, could that happen? Well, yeah. And yeah, it might not. So
yeah,
if you study quantum physics and how we bring in our own reality, just stay the hell away from that stuff.
Yeah. And again, just do what you can to know that you've done just what you can in your area, because I mean, local government and local involvement is super important.
That's what's going to hurt your life. Trust me. I've run political campaigns and I've run congressmen. I ran a president. I helped run a president once. They make some big long-term changes, but if you want your roads fixed, if you want to have proper drainage, if you want to not have a high rise put on top of where you live, you've got to know your local government. But it's time for us to leave, Dorothy.
It is.
It's a
pleasure, everybody. Yes, Jenna, me too.
We hope we help enlighten you a little bit, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.